Ooh, this background here is dark blue, and it just made my shoe wall pop on my end.
And everything's looking pretty crisp over in the Crocker household.
All that you can see.
Mm-hmm. How things going over there in West Dallas?
We're in a transitional time period, Kirk.
Like, and we don't go there. Our country or the household?
Household.
Okay, tell me more.
Kids are picking up into activities. We have avoided that for a long time in my world. And then it was basically just Braden with a few other things. But now all three kids are in things. And it's transitional. Lisa's been working a bit part time.
Hmm.
And she kind of got suckered roped into a job.
What is she doing?
Basically data entry. It's it's whatever I say will be incorrect. She was asked by a family friend of ours who's a CFO at a company if she would do a short-term stint for his company to cover a role that was ill-defined there until they decided if they needed someone long-term or not.
Hmm.
It was supposed to be like a 2.5 month thing. And then it just kind of it didn't they didn't end it. so,
Oh.
so she's just still doing it. So anyway, they tricked. It was probably the only way she'd say yes to work. She'd been a stay-at-home mom for so long, but so she's doing stuff. I'm doing my normal thing, but the kids are all in this stuff. So the house looks very different right now.
Hmm. Like a mess. That's what I'm
Yeah,
gathering.
yeah. You see my room; it's buttoned down, but our house is a
Yeah, I'm sure you
war
keep
zone.
your side of the street real clean. All
Whatever the
right.
camera can see. Now everything's good. I have run 4 days in a row, Kirk.
Okay, this is new. This is new information for me. Last time I had heard that wasn't even an option. So,
Now running's very generous.
okay,
Day one, I ran for 1 mile total in 50 to 60 meter increments at a time,
okay, and
just to test out what would happen waking up the next morning, to feel what would happen doing it. And then the next day, uh, I've been at an incline every day, different inclines, but then, so that was 8 minutes total of work. The next day was 12. The next day was 15. And yesterday was 18 total minutes. I did 18 rounds of 60 on, 30 seconds off.
wow, I mean that's progress. That's a lot of progress. I always tell people think like returning to training, like the cadence or frequency of their running. Like, oh, I'll return to running and I'll run every other day. Let's say my first couple
Mhm.
weeks back, because that seems so much less than what you used to do, which was run most or every day, right? But I still think even when you're coming back from injury, even if things are feeling good, I like the 1 day on, 2 days off cadence, especially if you're going to go further. Like if you're going to put in like 10 minutes or more of running, and I know that doesn't sound
Mhm.
like much, but when you're coming back, I like 2 weeks of 2 days in between and then 2 weeks of every other day. And then if you prove to yourself after 4 weeks, right, that's 2 weeks of 2 days in between, 2 weeks of 1 day in between, then you
Mhm.
can start to open the floodgates. That's what I think. But it's so hard to be patient when you're coming
Yeah.
back.
I'm doing the exact opposite of what I've done in the past, which is wait until like I'm absolutely sure because of my injuries. I'm really, really cautious. I wait till I'm absolutely sure, wait another week or two, and then get back to running. But then I'll do like 40 minutes every other day or every third day or whatever. This time I'm touching it every day, but touching it very briefly.
Well, yeah, and if you're on an incline on the treadmill, there's also a safety factor there too.
30 seconds aerobically at 20% or 15% incline.
Mhm.
That is a very short impact free bout of work. So I'm
Mm.
just trying to go every day a little bit and build up in. So, I mean, this might be weeks until I complete a steady run, but
Hmm.
I'm just going to interval my way back into it,
Well, that's
but
great
not
news.
intense interval. Yeah.
Sweet. You'll have to keep us updated, but that's good. I didn't think it was anytime soon for you based on how I understood it. So,
Yeah.
cool. I'm and then we'll get to the point today here, but I have decided that all of November is just sort of a free for all on my training. I've been so regimented
Hmm.
um, that I'm going to run low mileage. I'm not going to have a lot of purpose. If I feel like running hard one day or gray zone, I will. I'm going to give myself a few weeks of just like, and not even that much volume, right? Just kind of like not really like exercising, could we call it? Which heaven
Mhm.
forbid we exercise, not train. But like, I think I'm in that mode right now, just for like a few weeks before then December, the week of December 2nd, which I guess is 2 more weeks away. Then I'm gonna be all right. Now you must hit your 50 miles a week or whatever and run your 2 quality sessions and build up your long
Yeah.
run. But for now, my longest run is 8 miles each week, and I don't really do something that looks like true quality or anything that looks like true recovery either. Oh well, that's where I'm at. It's nice actually, but I'm
And that's
better.
a big reduction for you. You've repeatedly said, I did for me, which is now 10 miles of recovery. You've said that phrase. For me now,
Mhm.
a recovery run is 10 miles.
Yeah.
Uh, to now your longest run being 8. That's a big reduction.
So far in the first 2 weeks back, it has been, yeah. It was a big reduction, but that's all right. I'm
Mhm.
not worried. As we've said, you don't lose physiological metabolic fitness that quickly. And if I just I'll lose a little bit, of course, but like
Right.
nothing I can't get back. Nah, nothing like a catastrophic 6 week off injury is going to do to anybody, you know? So
Mhm.
it'll be all right.
So I've been thinking about something
Okay.
because I talked about on my episode you weren't here that I briefly recapped with you that I went back through all the way to Campbell University
Hmm.
and looked at training logs. And it was really, really interesting from that side. But one byproduct of that was it kind of just punched me in the face how disjointed my training really has been. Really has been.
Okay.
And it's not because of this next thing I'm going to say, but it's interesting to me that as my running knowledge has grown and my queue of workouts has grown
Mhm.
and the athletes that I've worked with has grown. Everything has just grown to the point where I have more running knowledge and workouts at my disposal that I think are intelligent workouts than I've ever had in my entire life. I
Mhm.
also have the least number of uninterrupted weeks of training strung together in my life. And I don't think it's because I'm not saying the more I learn, the more I screw up because I'm dabbling in everything.
Mhm.
But in returning to sports each time, I found myself really tinkering and kind of like perseverating over the perfect plan.
Okay.
It's
And
almost paralysis by analysis.
like the more you know, the less you understand.
The more I know, the less I can pick one way of proceeding.
Hmm. Well, I
Where in
think.
the past, I'd bring in workouts that I wanted to do.
Hmm.
But now that I'm starting kind of from scratch, it feels like part of me says, what if you just did 30 weeks of just double threshold training? Or what if you just did pure hybrid training? Or what if you did real, like a big block of aerobic development? Or hills have always worked well. What if it was a pure hill or just too, I've seen too many styles work for too many people. And as I'm going to write down, it's like, well, now this plan doesn't have enough of that, but it should have enough of this. Or what if I went really big in on stride work and speed development and just overall volume build for a while? There's just too many routes to get good that I believe all work for people.
I have an idea.
Yes. Okay.
It was it's many years ago now. I don't know if you recall, but we interviewed a man by the name of Joey Keeler, and he wrote a book called Race Great When It Counts.
Hmm.
High school coach, many state titles, a real force down in the Rochester, Minnesota area. And do you remember his philosophy?
I'm going to sound now, this was years ago now, but I'm going to sound real disrespectful if I don't. But from what I recall, is he didn't plan out progressions of workouts.
I'm distilling this down, but it was you have your 10 that you feel are effective, and you can pick one out of the hat, put it back in there, and mix them back up for the next time. And you vary
Hmm.
intensity, or you vary rep count, or you vary rest,
Hmm.
depending, or all of that. but you can take 400-meter repeats and make them a threshold workout, or you can make them a speed session, or you can take a tempo run and intermix it with 66 Billat 60/60 and make it some sort. You could do any sort of thing, right? So I think just as effectively would be take your 20, put them in a freaking hat, pick them out, and then when you get through them, throw them all back in the hat and start again. You'll probably end up close to the same damn place as if you did any other thing, except it would be sort of like a guessing game. I often wonder about that for myself, actually. The whole like, these are the 20 that you know have worked in the past or you feel like are effective. I'm looking for 10K to half marathon fitness. That's the middle point for all of us out here. Do it. Like, is it mile repeats or a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 fart? Like, I don't know. But either way, I'm going to get there. I kind of like almost it's freeing in a sense. I'm not saying that's exactly what you should do, but I'm not saying you shouldn't do that. I
Mhm.
should maybe do that.
Well, that's interesting that we kind of came to the same spot, which was the cure to paralysis by analysis is proof that anything works.
If you stick to it.
And save the fine tuning for when fitness needs to be fine tuned. I have not earned the right to follow a very intensive, specific plan and waste the time scripting out 16 weeks of something the way I'd like to. Because when is the last time I got through 16 weeks?
High rocks, doubles, maybe.
Never doubles. But I came to the same conclusion you did, which was what workouts have worked for me really well in the past? Is there a common thread? And it came down to clean workouts and others. Clean meaning 10 by 3 minutes, 16 to 24 by 400, and others being like a big stair workout, trail intervals at Lapham Peak, things that are more by feel or by duration, but not like an interval style that you can put into your watch. And just one day a week, I have a clean day, and one day a week, I have an unclean day.
Think about it like this. Let's say you were a weightlifting bro and you have 15 exercises for each muscle group. Let's just say. And you throw them into a hat, but you only get 5 each day. You throw it into a hat, and you're like, oh, machine bench press. It's International Chest Day. I'm going to start there. That one's out. Then I pick again. Oh, incline barbell bench press. Great. Now I'm going to do that one. That one's out. Then it gives you push-ups. Or then, point being, if you go in and do those things with purpose, and you do that for a period of time, you are going to grow muscles and you are going to get stronger. Maybe there is a better way to approach it or a perfect program for you, but like, what is that going to get you? Like 95% or more of the way there. It's just, you just keep showing up, right? And I would be completely happy on the strength front, being like, well, what's the random exercise? Great. Work hard, get close to failure, move to the next. I'm going to be great. And I think our running kind of works the same way.
Yeah, until you're no longer a novice. And then there's that option for maybe I get on a plan.
Maybe I GVT. Maybe I 5x5. Right.
And so I think that's what's going to happen. I'm going to keep this progression easing back in until I can handle training. And then it's going to be a grab bag of my 5 favorite clean workouts and my 5 favorite unclean workouts.
Dirty workouts.
Dirty workouts. Yeah. Where it's hard to get a real metric off of it, but you're just working. Like, what's your metric on Mount Majestic?
Right.
You don't really have a metric.
Yeah.
But you know when it's going well and when it's not. So sample them for a bit.
All right. I don't hate that. First of all, I like it. Second of all, I said dirty workouts, and it reminded me of something a client did yesterday in the gym. I have this. I'm trying to picture myself. No, when I have a client squat, in particular back squat, I say like get dirty with it. Get ass to grass, right? It means like get so low.
Oh, that's what dirty means.
I say get dirty with it. Like get so low that your butt would touch the ground and get dirt on it. That's what I mean when I say get dirty with it. Ass to grass squats, as you've heard before. Anyway, nobody's butt actually touches the ground, right? But it's an indicator to get low. Well, I challenged her, and this is a very irresponsible thing for me to do as a trainer, but she has incredible volume with her back squat, any squat really. Her name's Charity. She does not listen to this podcast. And Charity, I said, I bet you can you get your butt to touch the floor in a back squat with the barbell and like the weight on your back? We were doing higher rep stuff, like let's say 10 to 15. And she's like, I think I can. And she legit back squatted, got her butt all the way on the floor. Didn't just like barely skim it, like almost sat down, we will call it, with the bar on her back and got back up out of that position without tipping backwards, forwards, anything. She legit touched her butt to the floor with a back squat
Mm.
and able to come out of it without losing control. Tight core, puffed out chest, upright torso. Unbelievable. I didn't know that was humanly possible.
Not for a man.
Why would it be any different?
I don't know if it is, but you see those challenges like women can't or a man can't do this where you put your hand like your forehead against a wall, lean forward, and then hands behind your back, try to stand up out of it. You can't, and women can. There's some kneeling exercises of the same thing that men and women can't do differently because of morphology. So I just attributed that to her. I took all her skill away and said it's because she's female.
Careful. Do you think she can?
I know that I don't think I could do that. I know that I don't think. I'm confident
I know
that
that
I
I
couldn't
don't
do that
think.
in
Yeah.
a body weight squat, in an air squat.
But the weight and sometimes can be a counterbalance. Like if you're going to do a pistol squat,
True.
it can often be helpful to have like a 10-pound plate held out in front of you. So I'm wondering if it logistically works that way. I still couldn't do it either way, but anyways, that's such a tangent that didn't teach people anything. So let's move on.
Okay.
What are we doing? What are we doing today, Bracken?
Apparently, we're trying to convince Charity to drop her butt to the floor.
So what we're doing today. We have a Q&A in line for you folks. I
Trying
just
something new.
never before. I have 18 screenshots, but I think a number of them, especially the last one, is multi-part screenshots. So I bet you we have 10-ish questions
Okay.
that we can get to today.
Can
And
we start with the last one?
yeah,
If it's the one, I saw one come through.
this
If it's
was
the one I'm thinking about, is
okay.
that the coaching one?
The one where this person asked for anonymity.
Yes.
No, this is after that. This is an athlete I work with.
Okay.
Um,
I do want to get to the anonymity coaching one because I just don't want that to be the last one and for us to rush it.
okay.
That's my only request today. You can
We're
do
gonna,
whatever you want other than miss that one.
I'm not the boss. You push the button now. All right. Let's just start from the top. We're going to get through all these regardless. We have
Okay.
what time is it here? We've got an hour to do this. We can get through all these. All right. Troy Christie, athlete I work with. Troy says, "Hey, I've been doing about 90% of my flat quality sessions on the track. As you know, that means I spend almost half of my sessions in a turn. Obviously, my stride will be very different in the oval. The track is also much softer than the road, so I would imagine this will reduce building resistance to impact. Will running the majority of my flat quality sessions on the track be detrimental to my growth versus running on the roads? This sounds like a Q&A question. Ha." And then I said, "Yeah, it is. I'm saving it." So that was just a question sent to me.
What's his goal race or main purpose of racing?
Let's say trail ultra curious and heading that direction, intermixed with Spartans and some trail races. Let's say that.
I have answered this question both ways
Okay.
for different athletes.
He's not
So
road racing as a priority. I can tell you that.
I'm a big flip-flopper on this particular topic because I want to say that the track is bad for runners.
Okay.
It's a totally unrealistic setting. The pace that you work on there, unless you're moving to the roads, is just really not that useful to focus on that pace. The constant turning, how many of us are really going to change directions on the track to balance out people get overuse injuries or get imbalances on their hips and sometimes ankles from a lot of track work. And it is sometimes a stride that's just not transferable to your terrain that you're going to be racing on. But at the same time, it's such a clean place that it's a great opportunity to work on metronome strides. It's a great place to work on pacing because you never have to guess on distance. You can look at your watch constantly every 100 meters and know
Mhm.
exactly what pace you're running. And you can zone out and just run any distance you want and not have to think of anything other than the act of running rather than worrying about all the other pieces. So I really go back and forth on whether I think the track is useful for people or not.
Let's boil this down to his real questions. Will re- uh, I would imagine this will reduce building resistance to impact. Will running the majority of my flat quality sessions on the track be detrimental to my growth versus running on the roads? That's the real question.
I'm going to say no. It is not detrimental and it won't affect your resistance to impact as an ultra runner.
Um, Troy found running seriously in the last handful of years. He's in his 40s. So, and he's got quite a talent too. He's hungry for it. So knowing that, I think development is development, and all his
Mhm.
other work is done on either terrain or the roads, right? He's doing uphill work every week. I'm prescribing it, right? He's doing quality long runs that has threshold components in it on the trails, prescribed, right? I think if it's every other week, I'm prescribing him a flat and fast Tuesday. I think it's probably helpful for a guy like him to get in touch with sterile environment pacing above all else to understand where your limits are.
Mhm.
And you are correct, though. Like, how often do we race in perfectly flat, controlled conditions? Even a road race, you could argue, is vastly different than a track with the way it rolls and the
Yeah.
turns and the slight off. I don't know what you call it. Like the road has a slight tilt to it, when you're running on things like that. But I'm gonna say with how often he's on it. I mean, if you're on the track like twice a week, but you're not a track like racing on the track, we want to go back and I think rejig what you're doing there. And I
Mhm.
think most quality sessions can be simply done on the road. Logistically, it becomes easier when they're less than 800 meters to just go to the track and do it. You're probably getting the desire, but once you get to about a half mile or more, I think you can go rip in the neighborhoods or the road loops or anything. But long answer short, I do not think it's detrimental. Now, I don't know if you recall. Of course, you recall. Um, Indoor track in college, 200 meters, the turns were so tight. I'm going to start
Mhm.
making arguments there. We didn't have a bank track. You didn't have a bank track, at least when I was
Nope.
racing there. That starts to add up. Those are tight turns. And the faster you run, the tighter those turns feel. But we're not talking indoor track, so we can just move on.
I agree with that. And ultras, you're going to be doing so much work elsewhere that a couple times you could be on the track twice a week and it's not going to hurt your ultras. The thing about resistance to impact is that you don't need to impact every day. And sometimes it's even good to deload impact in order to be more prepared to impact greater later in the week.
Hmm. You put me in low stack height, fairly firm, new age super shoe and put me on the track running anything hard, I'm going to take plenty of damage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. All right. Next one. This came through the website. Chase. Hey guys, first off, absolutely love the podcast. I'm always looking for the next episode. The recent interval style Q&A was great, and I figured I'd add one or two questions to the ever-growing list. I'll try and keep this simple, but the topic could turn into a whole episode. Where do I fall short? ... You find that funny? Anaerobic, explosive power, or aerobic endurance? What would be a test or workout someone could do to figure out where they sit on the spectrum? I know this is a very sport/race specific, so it could be a muddy answer. Maybe think in terms of general running performance. I won't be offended if you skip this and go straight to the quick question. Quick question or quick one. Oh, got it. I want to hear Brakken's book review of Born to Run. Thank you and keep up the good work, Chase.
Hmm.
So How do you know if you're falling short on if you're like more of a quick twitch and your endurance sucks, or your endurance is great but your speed sucks? What's a test?
I've talked down here a lot, maybe not a lot, but frequently about how the running pace calculators are inherently flawed because they assume no drop off from any one distance to another. So you plug in
Mhm.
the pace you run for a 5K and it tells you what you can run from a 800-meter all the way up to a marathon. But that's assuming equal capability and fitness at any distance. Well, the good thing about that is you can very quickly find out where do you fall on that spectrum.
Right.
You run any distance you want and plug that in, and then you take a look at the predicted times. And some of them are going to be like, yeah, I think so. And others, you're going to be like, not a chance.
Right.
And that's how you know. And if you want, you can
Do
do
you,
two: run a
do you,
mile and run a 5K.
and you think it's that simple?
I really do. Yeah.
I mean, they're in the ballpark, right?
Yeah. Should I pull one up right now? Should I just do it on myself?
Sure.
Okay, I will do that.
Yeah.
All right, let's say 1 mile, since that is the single easiest time trial for everyone to complete. Very few people will look forward to it, but you can just go out and run a mile. It doesn't even have to be your full workout for the day.
Hmm.
So let's say the last time I ran a mile all out in bad fitness, that was coming off of hernia surgery, and I'd been running for like 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay.
So that should tell me basically what my natural ability is at something, kind of.
Sure.
So I ran 4:44. That says, using the VDOT calculator app, that I could run a 5K in 16:17. That's an equivalent performance, and a marathon in 2:36. We can see right off the bat that,
Mhm.
knowing me, that is a fool's errand. I think that a 16:17 5K, if I'm in shape to run 16:17, I'm also going to run about 4:30 in the mile.
What does it say if you ran a hour 11 half marathon?
I will put that in next. 2:36, I think, would be up towards my high end capability in a marathon,
As fit as you could be, high end
as fit as I
capability.
could be.
Yeah.
Whereas coming off a surgery, I ran the mile. So right away, it shows me that stamina and aerobic capacity, that is my weakness. And I
So
think that's pretty accurate.
for this gentleman, you could just literally go to, is it V dot? Just Google V dot calculator, but
Yep.
is it VDOT.com or something like literally VDOT, something
It
like that?
might be. I haven't gone to the
Anyways,
website in years because I bought the app, but
might be a good start at both ends of the spectrum. What I would do is say, okay, what's the longest race I've done? And what's my PR? Type that one in, see how it feeds down, and then type
yep.
the shortest metric you have and see how it feeds up and be like, oh, I way more align
Yeah.
one way than the other. I think it's as simple as that, actually, to be honest.
Yeah.
There are tests. What is it? There's tests in the Uphill Athlete, I believe, to figure this out. There's tests in a few of these books to be like, oh, this is the way I should lean into my training based on my natural tendencies as an athlete. But just use a VDOT calculator.
Yeah. So 111 what?
It was 111.19. I'm just seeing if it lines up with
Oh,
my
I had
5K.
22.
That's pretty close.
Man, I'm off.
Yeah.
I'm embarrassed. That says you could run a 2:29 marathon
Mm-hmm.
all the way down to a 4:31 mile.
What about the 5K?
15:34. Now, this is an interesting one to me.
I did just, well, yeah, I don't think it's perfect because unless the half is my sweet spot, that's telling me maybe I think I could run faster than 229, probably. And I've run faster than 15:34, ran 15:17 recently. I mean, within the last half year.
I think they're equally off for you,
That's what I'm thinking.
which is interesting because you are a speed-based athlete who's been a strength-based trainer for the last many years. And I think you are probably the most well-balanced you've been in your life.
But I will say neither of them are astronomically off. That's the thing. They're
Correct.
in the wheelhouse.
So you
So
probably look at 4:31 mile and be like, oh, I could run faster than that. But I might need a week or two to like get used to that.
would I
And
run
you look at
for?
a 2:29 and be like, I could run faster than that, but I might not on my first try.
I say I ran 4:36 to open a session before my 5K. Wasn't it something
Oh,
like
okay.
that?
Yeah.
But it hurt. Don't get me wrong. So okay. So then let's move on. Now this is just pure selfish. Nobody's learning anything, right? Type in I ran 15:17 in the 5K. What would that compute to my half then? How close would that be?
Okay, equivalent there for the half is 109.58,
So I could
which
have
you
under
thought you could run 70.
that would have been right on. I thought maybe I could if it went well. I was sick as a dog,
And
but
I
yeah.
would say you have worked on this type of thing,
That's not far off, right?
stamina.
But either way, if we're talking like a minute or two, that's pretty close. So that's not bad.
Yeah. But
So
right
it's
now, what would
reliable.
you if you had to argue, am I better at speed or endurance right now? What would you'd be like, I'm kind of in between. Like
I'm
I'm a
right in the
speed-based
middle.
guy.
The half might be the sweet spot, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I don't think it's I think that corroborates what we're saying.
It does. It
One
does.
last point. If I
It's funny
put
because
in the
I'm
summer,
arguing
oh,
like if it says I'm
go
a
ahead.
2:29 marathoner and I'm like, no, I'm 2:27. Like I'm arguing like 2 minutes in a marathon. Like what does that come out to per mile? I'm arguing 5 seconds a mile, not even.
Right.
Okay. Like it's in the wheelhouse. So
Yeah.
yeah. That go ahead. Sorry.
So the summer I ran 15:42 on the roads in the 5K. I also ran a 1 mile road race. And I didn't run an official race higher, but that gives me an interesting. So my if I put my 15:42 5K, which is still my PR, what does it say for the mile?
4:34.
Close, 4:33. And I ran
Sorry, I was a
4:22
second
or
off.
4:20.
But that again, that would be your indicator. Yeah.
Right. So it's consistent. No matter what distance I put in, it
Hmm.
undervalues my mile and over gives me credit. Maybe it undershoots my mile and way over. It says I can run a 2:30:30 marathon. I was not running a 2:30:30. I
So
could
what
have
if you
run a
type in
1:15 half.
So here's where it gets real goofy. What if you type in 4:22 in the mile? What does it say you should be able to run in the marathon?
I'm guessing like 2:22 or 2:18 or
which is
something.
which is just silly.
All right. Equivalent 2:24.
Which again just doubles down on the theory that you're a explosive tendency athlete.
Yeah.
But yeah. But I also
But
think how many collegiate milers that can run 4:22 think you can go out and run 2:24 in the marathon? None.
right.
That I knew back in the day. But okay,
You'd
we
need to
got
be a 23:50 8K runner to think,
correct.
yeah, I think I could go do that.
Yeah. All right. And then to real quick, and then just give this. He says, I want to hear Brakken's book review of Born to Run.
Okay. For those who don't know, McDougall wrote the Born to Run book, which was based on his premise that humans are born to run and not born to wear technology filled shoes or in theory shoes of any type. Spends time with the Tarahumara Indians and a whole bunch of things, and it all supports all this theory that we are not made we're born to be barefoot runners, and he's big on the pose method and all these things. And my review of the book is that it was a very engaging, entertaining running book. My view on his beliefs of barefoot running is that he is single-handedly responsible for the epidemic of stress fractures that followed this book.
Yeah. Send him the
Yeah.
bill.
I honestly think he has been more destructive to the running health of the United States than anything other than eating disorders. And
Mhm.
I'm sure he's a fantastic human being, but he got an idea and he then wrote a book to support it
Hmm.
without fully understanding the ramifications of what he was going to do. So I'm not a barefoot running supporter. Humans are born to run. Our ancestors were not running mileage.
Okay, so why is barefoot running or zero minimalist running, in your opinion, so bad?
Because most people convert to it later in life.
Okay.
That's the single most important. Maybe we were intended to run barefoot and maybe even for long distances, but that's assuming never changing that from birth onwards. If you look at a little kid run, they run with perfect form. And then they lose that, partly due to growth and partly due to Once you go into shoes, it's hard to go back out of it. But if you spend years or decades conditioning yourself one way, then going back to barefoot is highly destructive and dangerous. There's always going to be people that it works for. And so they are the ones that speak the loudest and then sell programs for it. But I think it's very telling that can we name anyone who has won a track or road world title in ultras or any sort of barefoot since Abibi Bekele,
You would
who
know
ran
better
a
than I would.
marathon barefoot
That was like 1967 or something, right? 63,
and then
60.
promptly signed a shoe deal and never ran barefoot again.
It just popped up on my Instagram feed.
Really?
A clip of him running barefoot through the streets of, I don't remember what city it was, but my God. I can't think of anybody. But the performance factor and shoe technology and all that, you're going to go where the speed is. As Ingebrigtsen says, the goal is to run as fast as possible, as often as possible. And the fastest shoes out there aren't built that way right now. Even Ultra's fastest shoes don't hold a candle to anything with some sort of drop and propulsion.
I don't want to go down a rabbit hole too far. But a massive, I really don't want to, because this is not what we need to do. But a massive pet peeve of mine is when we attribute some sort of higher knowledge and lost knowledge to ancient civilizations, as if they knew something that we have since forgotten.
They were more lost than we are.
When you try to apply diets, healthy or exercising lifestyles to Paleolithic time periods, you've lost me. They didn't know about training. So don't say that because they were barefoot, they knew something we don't.
Neanderthals had Vibram 5 fingers. What are you talking about?
They also had a life expectancy of like 20. So yeah, do what they did. But you're going to get eaten by a cave bear.
Cave bear, not a bear that dwells out of caves or in the forest. It's a cave bear. Yep.
You look up cave bears, Kirk. You don't want to mess with a cave bear.
Neanderthal, I believe, is the correct way to say it if you're being snooty. All right.
I would never. Good book, though. Truly. Christopher McDougall wrote a good book. I read it.
You are not.
It was entertaining.
You can't finish this conversation with, it was a good book, though. Go out and enjoy your stress fractures.
So was 50 Shades of Grey, but you probably don't want to live your life as it's your Bible.
Are you sure?
Well, it wasn't a good book, but it was a successful book.
Did you read it? That's weird.
Come on, everyone read it.
No, I have not read it.
Lisa, Macaulay, and I all read it in the same year.
That changed.
I bailed after the first one.
Change anything for you and Lisa?
Just me and Macaulay.
All right.
Kirk was about to take a drink, and I was seeing if I could get a spit take out of him.
I didn't take it. Yeah,
but it didn't work.
All right. Let's not get too far off the rails. All right. Riley says, "Hey, Kirk." See, he's smart. He knows to message me directly. Potential Q&A for the podcast. You've mentioned that post-college, your training was focused mainly on bro lifting / bodybuilding style workouts. Now knowing that you would later come back to running at a high level, would you have changed anything about how you trained to maintain your running fitness? For context, I'm a post-collegiate runner wanting to put on some muscle mass purely for vanity reasons and find it really difficult to do so while running even moderate amounts of mileage. But I have a hard time letting some of the hard-earned college fitness slip away. It's a great question. That's the exact boat I was in. And many of you who go through the collegiate circuit,
collegiate.
But if you are a collegiate, you're a collegian.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Circuit is collegiate.
Yeah, collegiate.
The
circuit.
athlete's collegian.
I mean, there's a handful.
That's what you get for having the question directed at you. I'm going to be real pedantic.
Yeah, you're a dick. A number of my teammates from college, we got done, and I graduated college about 140 pounds, let's say, give or take. I'm roughly 30 or more pounds heavier than that today. Being like you're like a 22-year-old young man still sort of developing, and you're sick of being skinny, and so you want to find the gym and put on some muscle. You see all the prom queens dating the buff dudes, and you're like, I want to date the prom queen. She don't want 140-pound Kirk. Help me out here. Like, come on, that's the real internal dialogue at points. Self-confidence and a 26-inch inseam and a chest that isn't much bigger doesn't go very far at that age as you're developing. And so a lot of men, in particular, young men who get done with college and realize it's not their career, are like, okay, I might want to think about my appearance now because running isn't my end game. So I feel for Riley. I get it. Didn't you follow that trajectory? You already had the prom queen when you graduated college, I guess, but there's a part of it there that is real for skinny runner dudes.
Yeah, for sure. I just found lifting the year I quit running in the middle of college. Not middle, early on in college. But
Yeah.
I went through that exact thing.
So here's the thing, Riley. I really let go of my running specific goals during that time. I got notably slower. Let's say I was a 14:45-ish 5K at when I finished college. I mean, I slipped all the way back to 16. I ran like 16:11 in like 3 road 5Ks, 5+ years post collegiately. So what is that? Let's say I took a hit a minute on the 5K, which is a lot of time at that speed. And so I didn't care if my metrics slipped. Wasn't my focus. You asked the question, would I go back? I mean, I'm 41 now. What are you, Riley? 23? I don't know. My answer now is an astounding yes. For life vigor, for feeling good in your skin, for metabolic purposes, muscle is the answer. And you can run fast with more muscle on your body. I've proved it. Especially as you really age, a moderate amount of muscle is very beneficial. Those string beans break down and they end up losing their runability pretty quick as they age. Muscle mass becomes more important. So I would go back and do it over again. If you asked 30-year-old Kirk if he was still trying to PR in his running, I would have waited until my late 30s to start this.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But 5 pounds of muscle, 10 pounds of muscle. The answer, Riley, here it is. Cap yourself at 20 to 25 miles a week and bro lift 4 or 5 days a week and just sit in it for like 7 years. That's it. And you're going to be just great. I was able to put on muscle while running, but it was very limited mileage. 20 to 30, often closer to 20. Wasn't running very far. My long runs might have been 10 miles every few weeks and mostly just short little runs after my lifts. I'd often lift, run 3 miles afterwards, not very fast, and call it a day. Probably muddied the waters a little bit, but maybe that's an answer. Maybe it's not.
Yeah. I'm going to. Maybe I'm feeling preachy today, Kirk.
Okay. I love it.
There is danger to undergoing any dramatic body transformation. And we often want to do it quickly and we don't realize what the ramification to that is. The first time I started putting on serious, noticeable mass as an athlete was in between my freshman and sophomore year of college when I stopped running and started to try to play baseball. And suddenly I put on muscle for the first time. And no matter what I did after that, I could never get down past a certain body type again.
Mm.
Not that I necessarily wanted to be emaciated, but
You
I
could never get
changed.
skinny enough again. Let's call it.
Yeah, I was never as small ever again. Even when I stopped lifting, my return to baseline was different than it used to be. And then it happened again after high rocks.
And I
I
agree with
stayed
you, by the
pretty.
way. Experience the
Yeah,
same thing. Once you've earned it, it wants to stick around, which is it's a beautiful thing.
yeah,
But is that physique conducive to your fastest running?
right. And then after high rocks, I worked really hard to gain weight really quickly, and my baseline changed again. My body accepted that, which is really cool. It doesn't take me a lot of work to like make my arms or chest grow right now. But they also don't go down below a certain point, even when I don't lift for months,
Mm-hmm.
which is not conducive to running my fastest.
Mm-hmm.
I now have changed my baseline, used to be around 155, and then lifting changed it to 168 to 171. And then high rocks changed it to 180. I'd
Yep.
only been above 180 once in my life, and now I rarely get below it
Can
because that's my new baseline.
I wanna also interject here. I feel like I always revert back to age, right? I'm like, I'm a master's athlete. Everybody's so sick of hearing me talk about
Mhm.
getting older. But I also think at play is you maturing as a human being, and you're 37, I believe, right?
37.
37. Part of it is definitely intertwined with
Mhm.
metabolic, like underlying metabolic rate. Like part of it is just like, yeah, I'm not burning as hot anymore because I'm a little older. And so I'm not going to eat my body away. So I think there's part of that going on too. But regardless of that, I still think the training sets you up the way you're describing. But there's an aging
Yeah.
component to it for sure.
Yeah. And so my advice, and some people are hard gainers until they're not. Like, it's really hard to gain anything until it clicks. But so my advice is, it's kinda like getting a tattoo where you gotta wait and make sure you really want it. I'd say the same thing for any sort of big body change, whether you're gaining or dropping, is what is the absolute minimum I'd want out of this that, like, would make me happy? If for a guy, if it's just some pecs and arms and a little bit of upper back, hey, keep your running, back it off a little bit, and just target those areas a little bit and see if a little bit extra makes you feel good. But going in big might give you a body swing that you may not want in 6 months or a year. So I would just say slow play body changes because you don't want to accidentally go one way or the other and then find out it's not what you wanted, but you may have changed your actual biological process in your new baseline moving forward.
I agree with that. Also, it doesn't happen overnight. So you can always pause the process, right? It's like you wake up and be like, shoot, I'm 20 pounds heavier today.
Correct. But the process is invigorating and you
Hmm.
see change. And we have a different view of what we want our bodies to look at 20 than we do at 30 and 40.
Hmm.
And there may be a different version of you want in there. I'm not saying the ship has sailed. It just becomes harder to undo sometimes.
It goes from wanting to be bigger as a younger man to wanting to be leaner as an older man
Yep.
in general. And he's in the I want to be bigger stage. He's been a thin runner, and we both can relate. Um, if I
But
were
it's
you,
easier to get big than it is to get lean.
yeah, I agree with that. But if you don't overdo the process, you keep your running up slightly, like 20 miles a week.
Yep.
I ended up, for sure, objectively, actually, because I measured it, I ended up leaner and bigger 5 years into that journey because of what muscle does to your metabolic fire. So I ended up
Mhm.
putting on mass, like, but it was slow. It wasn't like, hey, I'm going to gain 20 pounds this year. If I did that, I'd gain pudge and muscle. And so, like, just be patient with it, is what I'm saying. Like, keep the running up a little bit and gain it slowly. And you're going to end up like a lean, vascular, muscular freakazoid in 5 years, which I feel like is what happened to me. But it was slow. It was 10 pounds the first year, and then it was a couple pounds every year after that. And
Yeah.
then soon enough, it was like, I'm leaner than I used to be. And I have 30 pounds of muscle on me. I didn't. But if I
Yeah.
did it quickly, I'd end up probably doughy, but bigger.
And I understand we're talking to a very slim portion of the listeners right now.
That's
But
okay.
when you've been a collegiate runner, you have the gift of coming out very lean, which is what a lot of the world looks for. And so keep in mind that 1 pound of muscle on a lean athlete shows the way 10 pounds of muscle shows on a less lean athlete.
Let's go with 3 to 5, but I agree with you.
Depends how lean it is.
If you're lean, a pound goes a long ways.
Right.
100%. Yep.
So, anyways, I say always slow play it and hang on to your running more than you think you need to. The interference effect is far overblown.
All right. I vastly uh overbelieve in our ability to answer these quickly. My
It's my
faith in
fault.
us is misplaced.
I'm preaching today.
So what I'm going to do is go to the question you want to make sure we answer, and then we'll
Okay.
continue down the list until time is up.
Okay.
This person says some anonymity would be great, but not worried if you get on a roll with it. But let's keep it. This nameless human says Q&A question for y'all, not about you specifically. He says, oh, he or she says. I already gave something away there. My current coach of 3+ years Again, not either of you. I would you're not my athlete or an athlete I work with. Maybe I should tell you the name off mic, Bracken. Maybe this is one of yours. I don't know. My current coach of 3+ years, again, not either of you, has had his communication and responsiveness to time sensitive questions fall off the face of the earth. I have been clear and upfront that although I don't need to be tended to every waking minute and don't expect to reply straight away to trivial matters, but if there's something significant that needs to be addressed, I'd like to not have to figure it out. That's why we are paying a premium for a service. Could give examples, but do not need to air out my dirty laundry on a podcast Q&A. So I guess the question is, do I take the hint and go coach shopping? Or do I suck it up knowing that we all go through phases of life and this may be one for coach? Note, I really enjoy the programming. He just dropped the ball big time on the coaching front one too many times.
So the reason I wanted you to do this one and get to this is because I saw this message come in and I saw the name. And there's a reason this athlete keeps saying it's not one of you. It's because it used to be one of us. I used to work with this athlete more than 3 years ago.
Oh,
And our relationship came to an end because of communication on my end. So
okay.
this athlete wanted to make clear that it's not still he or she hung up on my lack of communication from 3, 4, 5 years ago.
Huh.
But I feel very compelled to answer this question.
Listen, the floor is. I, I'm actually a fantastic communicator with with people, and
Yes.
like at least I respond. I'm not saying I'm a great communicator, but at least I respond
Yes.
quickly because I'm too compulsive not to. So the floor is yours.
Okay. So this athlete we went through, and I wanted to make sure I was remembering this correctly. So I typed their name into my email, and our last few correspondences came up. And what I said in there was, I'd like to give this one more shot after this athlete said, this communication level is not working with me. I said, we may need to find a different form of communication because obviously email is not working well or whatever we were using.
Okay. You use Slack, right? By the way.
I wasn't at the time.
Oh,
And this
but
is
now
why this
you
was
do
a very important athlete for me.
because they changed your trajectory.
It didn't work. We weren't able to do it. This athlete does not live in the United States,
Okay.
as far as I recall.
Okay.
Again, we're talking 4 or 5 years ago, but because of time zone differences and everything and my weaknesses, we had to stop working together. And this athlete was the reason I switched back to using Slack for communicating with athletes because Slack is my guardrail against you can't miss a message really on Slack. It doesn't get
Mm.
shuffled down the list like it does in email or on text. It just stays up at the top with all unreads. And as long as the athlete's on Slack, they are communicating with me and I'm communicating with them. It's on my desktop, it's on my Chromebook, it's on my phone. I don't miss messages. I'm still not a great communicator in email or things like that, but I don't use email with my athletes. So
It-
this was a very important athlete for me
huh.
because it was the last straw. I was like, I can't continue being so terrible with people who are paying me money. I have to find a way to be better.
Two things real quick. Maybe as many turmoils as the leaderboard days ended up being, Slack was the primary communicator on that. So maybe that was a
It
good
was.
thing, if I recall.
It was. That's where I got it
Uh-huh.
from.
And it was actually pretty slick, by the way. I was an athlete using Slack as an athlete, not a coach, and I felt like it worked. It was a great
It does.
community platform. Yeah, yeah. So I
Yeah.
agree with you. The other thing, and can I air your dirty laundry?
Yeah, absolutely.
So Bracken and I, this is a peek behind the relationship curtain. I've asked Bracken before in the past, like, why do you miss stuff or why did you not respond? I've asked you this. We haven't had this issue recently, but I said, why? And you say it's a matter of urgency. So Bracken will go through his, you can correct me if I'm wrong, by the way. This is how I remember the conversation. It was you will open up your email and let's say there's 30 emails in there and you will scan them and be like, that needs attention, that needs attention, that needs attention. And you will pick and choose like what matters the most, but one at the bottom may not be so urgent. And so you will leave messages to get to later once you're back in that mode.
Mhm.
But they end up shuffling down the deck a little bit. So you sort
Yep.
of pick and choose the fire to put out based on the context or content.
Correct.
And so sometimes things like you'll read one and then there'll be two unread because or two unresponded to because they're not as urgent. And then sometimes they end up not getting quick response, we will say.
Correct.
So is that am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, that is issue number 1.
So you'll respond to urgency, but point being is that with Slack, everything's on the top until it's responded to. So that was a good
Correct.
fix for you. Okay. Just making sure. You can delete that part if you want, but that's how I
No, I'm
understood.
gonna leave that in there.
Oh,
I
okay.
we're fair not fairly, we are extremely honest on this podcast, and I don't mind my flaws being out there. The
I've been
second issue is
lying to
that
people since day one. So
well, yeah, I'm a
continue.
sleep swiper. I
Oh,
have
that's
in the
right. That was
past
part of it too. You've told me that's right.
I have in the past, in my sleep or half awake in the middle of the night, got up, go to the bathroom, come back, check to see what time it is, and then see I have some notifications there and just swipe them away off my phone.
Hmm.
Not remember it in the morning. And then someone's like, hey, I haven't heard from you. And I go back and check, and it's like, oh, yeah, I got this at whatever time last night. And it's unread, but it's swiped away and now it's buried because I'm not like you. I don't just go down through my email first thing every morning. Slack doesn't do that. I open up Slack and it's sitting at the top.
Hmm.
These aren't excuses. These are facts of me being bad at certain forms of communication. So I had to use Slack. And this athlete is one of the reasons,
Hmm.
the final nail in my coffin of why I had to move away from any sort of texting or emailing with athletes. It just doesn't work for me.
Hmm. Brakken once told me uh, that he responds to me and his wife, not in that order. But I feel like there's like a certain like family group. I'm sure it's like your family, your wife at the top of that, and
Mhm.
then me.
Yep.
And then everything else can just floodle down the list because you're really good at
When I get to it.
well, you're really good at no, and this is something I admire about you because at the expense of my own relationship with my wife, to be honest, it is a point of contention how responsive I can be at times, and we can be sitting around or spending quality time together, and I'm in my phone, like I just got to get to this. I just got to get to this, and I don't need to be that way. And in fact, I need to be, and I've said this to you before, like I need to pick up some of those characteristic qualities because it actually can be a point of contention between me and Jess because of that. So like there's a balance there is what I'm getting
There
at. And
is.
I'm on the wrong side of it. Maybe you are too,
We
but
both are.
correct.
Yours is better for business. Mine is better for my
Mhm.
close inner circle. I would benefit to be more Kirk like in my communication. And I know that.
And I would benefit on the personal front to be more Bracken like. So let's
So,
answer the question. So
yeah. So
that
this
is
brings me
airing
back to
laundry.
this
This
athlete.
is we are airing it out.
Well, this person deserves an apology, and they deserve to know that it's not them.
Hmm.
You deserve better than this. This is your second time with a coach who couldn't meet your needs. And yes, they deserve the open and honest communication. But since you gave that to me, I'm assuming you gave that to them. And they've now chosen not to improve it. So maybe you do give them one more chance. But the fact is, and I say this to everyone, and sometimes it'll be at my detriment. Someone will leave me because they don't feel that their needs are met. Coaching blurs the line of a relationship and a service, but it is first and foremost a service, and the coach works for the athlete. You wouldn't accept it from your plumber. You wouldn't accept it from your mechanic. You should not accept it from your coach. You are paying them money to perform a task. And if they are not performing it up to par, you are well within your right and highly encouraged to find someone that will. Now, because it blurs the line of relationship and contractor, it's not a terrible idea to have some open lines of communication and say, here's what I'm wanting. I do need this. If you can't, then I need to look elsewhere. But they're not owed that. They really aren't. And a coach that gets mad at you for leaving is not a coach worth having in the first place. And I firmly believe that. I'm done,
So
Kirk. Floor is yours.
I don't need a floor. I think I'm just wondering so what should this person do? You're saying as long as this has been communicated between coach or athlete to coach and it's been acknowledged, I guess if it's not acknowledged, that's your answer as well. You know, you address
Mhm.
it with coach, coach doesn't respond as maybe what the current thing, and then that's your answer. But as long as it's like up and leave, for example, you're saying, as any communicative person would do, like tell them how you're feeling, get a response. If it doesn't improve, move on.
Yeah. I believe we need to believe people when they tell us who they are.
Hmm.
And it doesn't mean they can't change in the future, but it's not on us to wait for that change. It's not on us to fix people. This athlete me, helped me
Hmm.
grow and change. I don't know if fix is the right word, but they didn't need to stick around to see if it took. Right? They said their piece. I proved who I was in that moment, and they moved on.
Hmm.
And that was best for both of us.
Hmm.
And so the same thing happens. Yeah, if this person has given their coach, listen, this is what I need, and that hasn't been met, it's time to go. And you
Can
know it.
I think this person said things politically correct, so to speak.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know if this will offend a few people that I work with currently, but there's also a line in which, because of the nature of our work, there's a friend coach line that gets very blurry as well,
Yes.
especially in personal training, which I've been doing. You get to know people. You get to care a lot about people. You learn about their families and their struggles and their victories. And running, as we all know, bleeds far beyond running, right? For me, it's therapy as well as just vigor, right? And for others,
Mhm.
it's a way to deal with trauma. And for others, it's a way to deal with weight loss. And for others, it's just so routine that it makes them feel normal. But point being is, in a workout setting, or when it comes to this, it bleeds into life. And often there are very blurred lines. And I have, let's say, a half a dozen people I work with in which most of the conversation isn't about running anymore.
Yep.
It is about the problem with their spouse. It is about their dog that's sick. It is about things that are left field of what they hired you for. And it happens a lot. Their depression, their anxiety, their other things. And it becomes a friendship thing in which suddenly you are a crutch, in which people rely on you to help diagnose their illness and tell them what they should do in their training. It
Mhm.
is and so there is a fine line between matters that are urgent and need. And I'm not saying this is this person, by the way, this is just speaking through a coach's lens,
Mhm.
where then somebody views you as a sounding board for other areas of their life, which
Yeah.
happens to me a lot.
Yes.
Trainer, coach, therapist. Therapist might be first.
Yeah.
And so in those cases, as good of a, or as a responsive as a communicator as I label myself, with certain athletes, I've purposefully chosen not to respond at certain times because it's just not in our scope. And
Boundaries have
so,
to be established.
but it's not said. It's not like, here's our boundaries, there's the line. It's just
Mhm.
like, hey, like now we're talking about the election and I'm not going there with you.
Mhm.
Okay. Which has happened twice this last week in some sort of email response, right? Somebody's brought it up, said how it's affected their week and thus their training. And if I'm not feeling the same way they are, then I should reconsider how I'm feeling, for example.
Mhm.
That's an example, correct? And I didn't
Mhm.
bring this, we've never talked about it, but anyways, so there are athletes out there who are a little bit delusional in which the relationship should look. We are your friend, yes, but at the same time, there can be lines that need to be drawn. So, to your defense, and I'm not saying, and to mine, it's a blurry situation sometimes, in which requires
Yeah.
embracing the conversation, and which requires, like, let's move on from that and either not address it or address it. Do you get what I'm saying here? This
I
whole
do.
thing, yeah.
It there's 3 examples that pop to my mind quickly, and I'm gonna go more into this because this is going to affect people out there right now.
Here, I thought
Someone
we could get through 10 questions.
Yeah,
I'm talk about delusional.
what a farce.
Continue.
An athlete that we both know of the individual, started working with me, let's just say in the last 2 years. Keep this vague. And
So
it
really, the last 6
was
months.
I mean, you can read into however you want, Kirk. Well, this individual had a hard time pulling the trigger on doing it because there was going to have to be a difficult conversation with their existing coach, and they knew the coach was going to be upset about it. And that right there, to me, was the first and most powerful indication that they needed to leave that coach. Not to come
Mm,
to me, but just to leave that coach. If that coach has an emotional attachment to you in that regard, it's not a good relationship.
hmm,
Now, I'm not saying I'm the best in the world at this, but I try to lead every interaction I have with a new athlete by saying, listen, I'm emotionally attached to your results, not your presence. If you do great, it makes me feel good. And if you do poorly, I get a little bummed out. But when
mm,
you need to leave or ask for something different, I will support you and I will help you find the next person that's a better fit. Like I have to be emotionally attached to your performance for you to get the best of me. But I have to be detached as a person from your life when it's time that someone else can fit your needs better, because my job as a coach is not to be your friend, it's to make you better.
hmm,
Maybe as an athlete, maybe as a person, maybe as both. And if being friendly or being your friend is part of that, that's fine. But when you're leaving for a different coach, you're not breaking up with me. You're finding a different service. And that's a very hard line for people to follow. And I haven't been perfect over the years. Early on, I get very jealous when someone left. But if you
mhm.
know your coach is going to be mad at you for leaving, that's not a good spot. Second thing, there there is a family I worked with in the Minnesota area. Can we say their name? You work with one of them now?
Don't say their name.
Okay. We had a relationship for years on leaderboard, and then afterwards, and then they decided it was time to not work with me anymore. And now I don't know if you currently do, but in the last few years started working with one of them again.
And was forthcoming about that.
Yeah. And you know
Mm.
what? I said, good. I'm glad that so and so is working with you.
And it's
That's
gone
probably
the
going
other
to be
way, I
really good.
believe, as well over the years, or at least
Yeah.
entertained. Yeah, but continue.
And so we can have a hand in each other's success by letting someone go.
Mhm.
And it can't be like this friction thing. And someone I'm just starting back up with is someone that left me probably 4 years ago. That's just the way this thing works. And that's okay. So again, leaving can be very, very healthy. It's like dating, but it's not that serious.
Hey, did we just hit a chord with that question, Bracken?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so too, because we're spending a lot of time on it, but we both, that's our profession.
It's important that people know that as the athlete, you have the power and you need to retain that. Any coach that tries to take that is not really doing it for the right reason.
Two things I'm going to add to this. Maybe this is where this podcast is going to end up. We'll see. We got 10 minutes
Do you
ish.
see why I wanted to touch upon this earlier than later?
Yeah, it's so great, and maybe this will resonate with people because I don't less than more of our listeners have coaches, I would imagine.
Mhm.
Um,
But it's that
eh,
time of year when people start looking. It's the
yeah.
holidays, doing it for a gift, starting off the new
Mhm.
year.
Hey, I've started as a gift for a handful of people, and it's been years of relationship. Like, hey, I'm going to get my husband 3 months of coaching. What does that cost? We do it. And now we're 3 years in, and they've
Yeah,
paid me way more than their Christmas gift has allotted for. So you're not
it's
wrong.
timely.
It's a great gift, by the way, folks. Hiring a coach, great gift. Just be prepared to stick it out for a little longer than you think. I think I still have three in my corral that were on three or four that I was like Christmas or birthday gift, and little
Mhm.
did they know it went further than that. Um, Two things to that. One, uh, sometimes I've dated a lot of women before I met my wife. Okay, just listen. Okay,
I put
listen.
on 30 pounds of muscle and I was leaner than ever. I dated a lot of women.
I have a point here. There were many good women. I don't think my wife listens really very often anymore, so this will be fine. Uh, there are many amazingly great and wonderful women that I dated over the years that weren't the right woman for me to end up with, right? They did
Mhm.
nothing. Their communication was good. They were fantastic people. We just didn't align in my eyes long term. So often when a coach is left and there's a difficult time on the athlete's behalf to leave, it's often because they understand the person in which they are working with is a good human, well
Mhm.
intended. And so there's the side that is my coach is going to get mad, and it's going to be, I can think of coaches who would and take it personally, and it's going to be a tough combo. And then
Mhm.
there's others in which, like many of the girlfriends I had dumped over the years, made it much more difficult because they were wonderful women, but not for me. And so that also happens with coaching. I took it a place it didn't need to go, but you understand what I'm saying is that
Yeah.
often the breakup is hard, not because they messed up or they suck. It's actually hard because they're great, but you need something different. So I also think
Yeah.
that's the other side of the coin. Okay.
Yeah.
Secondly, with the coaching athlete relationship, I give you what you give me, and you are probably the same. You seem to really care and be invested. Guess what? You're going to think I'm the most invested, meet you where you're at coach you've ever met. If you're somebody who doesn't respond to me, I hardly hear from, I have no idea what's really going on, you're going to think I'm a despondent, distant coach who has no investment in your success and you're more likely to leave. We give you what you give us. And that is true. That's how I feel anyways, the way I work. I can feel your enthusiasm. I hear from you often. I understand what's happening. You're going to get the same. We reciprocate, right? I'm not going to smother you if you don't seem like you want a lot of contact. Vice versa, I'm not going to ignore you. Um if you're reaching out often, for example. So there's the two components is leaving a coach who you believe is a good human, just not for you. And then two, I think often service providers meet you where you're at,
Mhm.
right? Like
Yeah.
10% of my athletes take up 90% of my time. And it's the same thing across the board with any profession because those are the ones who choose to engage often or draw you in based on their situation or whatever. And so I think those two
Yeah.
points are also important to be made. Like the current coach you're working with, you may think doesn't really give a shit, but they actually do. Look at what you're giving them at the same time. And I'm not saying this is the case for the person who wrote this question, but I'm saying this often is the case with other people working with coaches or service providers. And I think
Yeah.
that's all we're saying. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. So anyway, to the individual who wrote in, I'm sorry you're going through this again. Honestly, you didn't deserve the first one, which was me, and you certainly don't deserve the second one. My only hope is the third time's a charm, and you find someone that can communicate appropriately with you.
F that guy or girl.
But also, thank you. I
Yep.
wouldn't be on Slack right now if I'm a hard learner, and having someone leave was a punch to the gut.
hmm It still hurts. I have people leave me on occasion. It still
I should
stings a little
say
bit.
leaving because I know it's my fault.
Yeah.
People leave, go ahead. That's great. Let's find you a better fit. Leaving because I'm not doing my job, that hurt professionally. So thank you.
hmm Yeah, an athlete leave this winter, spring, uh, under the context that leading into an A race, the workouts were nearly identical to the year prior. And we had this conversation off mic, but since we're talking
Mm,
about it, and it really made, and it's like, well, there hasn't been much change to the programming. I looked at my lead into my A race last fall, and it was nearly identical to the lead in like the last 4 weeks the previous fall. And it leads me to believe that there's less effort being happened here. And of course, I believe in my lead in for the specific race. And of course, anyways, I didn't argue my point, but um, things like that still sting because, okay, it makes you reflect as a coach. Like, should I have changed things up a little bit
mhm,
for the sake of showing I care, if that's how you show you care, or
right.
are my methodologies sound? Things like that sting, right? Because then you wonder if it was on your end or it was not on your end. But
Yeah.
do we want to?
Let's end lighthearted. Let's get one good, nice running related, easy home run here.
um, did that feel therapeutic for you?
I don't know. It wasn't intended to be. It was I understand how difficult this can be on an athlete when the coach is dropping the ball. I wanted people to just kind of feel heard. Like this is the ball's in your court. You're the one in power here. You're the captain now.
I'm the captain now. I don't think we answer any more questions
Okay.
because I can't say how long or short they're going to go, and I want to make sure we do them justice. Um, so I think we leave them. So we only we got 4 questions today.
All right, then I'm going to pose a question to you to
Yeah.
end on
Yeah.
because I've been thinking about this one this week. We
Mhm.
kind of had the opposite, which was, is work on the track for my quality work leaving something on the table? Opposite version. If someone never wanted to run clean terrain ever, they just wanted to convert their workouts 10 by 3 minutes, 24 by 60 seconds, whatever it's going to be, and only run things on trails or hills or terrain. How much are they leaving on the table?
By not varying the terrain.
No, varying it on anything but track or road or bike path or treadmill. They're only running it on terrain. If someone did 100% track work and
Mhm.
all the easy work off road, and someone did 100% of their quality work off road, what is their difference going to be in overall fitness and raceability?
Well, obviously, Bracken, we have follow-up questions to things like this. That's how this
None.
works.
None.
What is this person's scope of racing?
You want to do it all.
Okay, like literally 9 out of 10 people that reach out to you.
Yeah.
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 Well, I have a High
Yeah.
Rocks on February 1st, but then I have a marathon on February 8th, and then
PR
I'm
a
gonna
5K, run
yeah,
a 50K on the trails, do an OCR in the high rocks.
and then I'm crewing my ultra friend 2 weeks later, and then after that, the
Ragnar.
Spartan US National Series. Yeah, Ragnar. There's always a Ragnar.
There's a Ragnar in there.
That is so funny. Nobody at home's laughing, but there's always a damn Ragnar. Um, hmm.
If you had
Uh,
to pick one for an all-around athlete, only the track or only hills and trails for quality work?
oh
Track or
god.
roads or hills and trails? What are you choosing?
So again, this is we don't know what they're racing. This is an
Everything.
unfair
They're
question.
racing everything.
I know, but like hills and trails. Gosh dang it! I'm gonna have to say hills and trails end up coming to the surface. What about you?
Well, same. But what would you have to hear to tip the answer in the other direction?
5K focus or under. I don't care the terrain.
Hmm. I was
I
gonna say
think.
road. If they said, my goals are road anything, that's my
Well,
changer.
oh, sure, yes, of course. I thought maybe that went without saying, but I think the 5K and under requires a certain level of
Yeah.
efficiency and turnover that we're going to need to actually touch it for real on the appropriate terrain. But I think you could run your best half marathon without barely touching quality on the road or tracks.
You'd have to find some real smooth trails or some very slight hills,
But
long,
I think it
slight
would.
hills.
But I think it would certainly translate better than
It translates
only.
one way better than the other.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I think. Yeah. What
Okay.
about? So, what do you think? What's your thoughts?
I agree. I think people could touch mostly hills and trails and be like 90+% of the way to their 5K road fitness.
Hey, when I was working with you initially, because I first found Spartan, and I said this on a recent podcast, and I was spending all my time. I was doing my work. I was going out to the trail systems for everything, recovery runs, quality work, and then I stepped in a road 5K, and I was like, "Holy smokes! I'm 45 seconds faster than last year when I did this." I was hardly doing anything on flat, fast terrain. So,
Mhm.
personal bias there is what I'm getting at.
All right. Well, let's wrap today.
Yep, it's time. I got 3 minutes to close up and get out the door, so this is good timing. Um, I guess I'll ask one last question to you.
Yes.
Are you in a place right now? So I have one registered race on my calendar, but do you have now that you're returning to running? I know it shouldn't change anything in the immediate, but do you have anything that you're looking at?
I would love to be fit enough and durable enough to race the Abominable Snow Race at the end of January in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin.
Love it. I have
End of January.
an athlete I work with that's coming from California. Sorry, to race the
Oof.
Abominable Snow Race. Uh, so I would like you guys to fist bump.
And we shall.
Hmm.
That
All
would be
right.
my goal. Slow play it 2 months to get in trail running shape.
Hmm. In the winter, which is the most difficult time to do so, but also lends you to real junky running if you seek it out.
That's my jam.
Is Jordan Buscemi a thing anymore?
I have not seen him at a race in a while.
Because he used to be a Midwest formidable foe and things like that.
Yeah.
All right. On that note, huh?
Till next time, have a great weekend, ladies and gents.
See you, folks.